Survivor News.
Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News.
Survivor News. Survivor News.
Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News.
What's going on? And welcome to the Purple Pants Podcast Survivor News Halloween edition of season 47, episode 8. I'm excited to be here, okay? My name is Tsunami, okay? And I am 45 years old. I'm so happy to be here. I believe I am so excited to have the contestant from Survivor 47. Not the first merge boot, but a boot before the merge. Let's welcome Rome to the podcast. What's poppin', Rome?
How we doing? It's good to be here, gentlemen. Lady and gentlemen, it's good to be here. Yes, I didn't make it to the merge, but I still was able to sit in Prost's seat. So that's a win for me. Thank you very much.
And somebody that has their hands clean all season and that might like to wet the whistle. Let's welcome to the podcast the fan favorite Teeny. What's going on?
Yo, it's Teeny. What up? It's Teeny. Yeah, just chilling, vibing. Been hitting the wine a little bit. Might need a buddy, but thanks so much for having me, guys.
Teeny, did you say you need a buddy?
I might need a buddy.
Well, you know, Wendell and I, or Rome and Sue, we in the Big Easy, baby. So we couldn't go. Okay, we wetting our whistle this episode.
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's get it.
Woo.
Rome, I'm glad you went home.
It's a lot going on this episode, and if you're listening, yes, the baby boys came in Halloween, so head over to the Bryce Isaiah YouTube page and see and get your life. But listen, let's get to some things because we have an episode to talk about. But Jackery, New Orleans, this Wednesday. It was something special. Like we said, we had a very intimate setting. We knew that we were doing something special. We had Phil from the Survivor Specialist coming, and we were trying something out new. We had a podcast. We did a live podcast in Bay Jack. When I tell you, whew,
it felt really good. We were at Urban South. They had like what looked like a perfect podcast setup all ready for us. We had our friends come up from our friends Erica and Derek come up from Mississippi to shoot us, and yeah, it came together nicely.
Yeah, we had
Gabe.
Well, we got footage, we got to get some things together, but that should be dropping soon. Who we have?
So we had obviously Gabler came as a Gabler. We had Darnell from Survivor Corone. We had Owen from season 43. And we had some other special guests that were in the building. So if you were there, but it was so much fun. Like the episode was a great episode. And Jack, that concludes the first leg of the BWPTour 47, which is crazy to say. The first leg is over. We go on a little 2-week break, but listen, the baby boys are coming back strong. We will be in Chicago November 20th. We will be in Philadelphia on Thanksgiving Eve, November 22nd. We'll be in Boston, December 4th. We'll be in Washington, D.C., December 11th, and the grand finale in Brooklyn on December 18th. So listen, get your tickets for the BWPTour 47 Part 2. Leg 2 of the BWPTour is super amazing. And if leg 2 is going to be anything like leg 1 or what it has been in the past, I don't think you want to miss these stops because, listen, I might be 43 by the time we get to Boston.
It's been a great first half, and the second half is going to be even better. We purposely loaded certain dates towards the end, and it's going to be up. Now, my only question, Bryce, we need to backtrack a little. What season of Survivor's Darnell from?
Quran.
The holy word. What is it, Bryce?
Well, he said Corone, which is like half of a Mexican beer.
Quran. What? He's from Survivor. He's in 32. Koran. That's where Michelle Fitzgerald won.
Come on.
Quran. All right, he's from the Quran. Blessings. Respect.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, listen.
Okay.
Jack? How do you say the season?
Co wrong. Like you're close. There's just like a G on it, like co wrong.
Like
So I'm
wrong.
wrong. So I was wrong. I was
You were so wrong.
You're co wrong. I wasn't gonna say anything, bro.
Thank you.
I'm Teeny chill.
Tina, you chilling, but you know, Romy Rome over here.
Rome's actually been to co wrong. Yeah. So a little bit different episode than we usually get. I mean, we had this. I think we saw in season 44 briefly. We had this split tribe. We also have this safety without power situation. Before we get into it, what do you guys think of this episode overall?
I thought it was good. I thought it was great. I think the first 5 minutes of it, the Andy show, where Andy was laying his fist down and saying, Andy was popping off. Andy was putting his pieces to the puzzle together. I was feeling that part of it. Then the end was so crazy. And then I got on Reddit and now I got all these questions.
What was going down on Reddit? That's got you thinking.
So I think when I was out with breakfast with Wendell and I was like happened to scroll on Reddit and there was a post that read something about they wish Survivor would leave out stop manipulating the episodes and just let the players play. And I said, what?
Oh yeah, I saw that.
What? I said, players, they're gonna play. And haters, they gonna hate. Ooh, ballers, they gonna ball. Shot callers, they gonna call. That ain't got nothing to do with me and you. It's the way it is. It's the way it is. So I call friends. Don't want to see me with you, teeny, behind your back. Calling Tiana and all of them. They ain't got nothing to do with me and you. It's the way it is. It's the way it is. Jack, title or artist?
I have an educated guess. I'm gonna guess called Me and You.
I'm gonna guess no.
Okay, and then I'm gonna artist. It's probably wrong, but at least it's something I've learned from you guys. I'm gonna say Aaliyah.
Oh wow.
No.
But I thought he was gonna guess Destiny's Child. So at least
That's an okay guess, right?
Okay.
That's her vibe, though, right?
Kinda. This group is after them. I'll give you another little hint. I'm getting a little tired of your broken promises. Looking at the pages, seeing different numbers. Call you on the side, you're hanging with the fellas. Hanging with my girls, you always getting jealous.
It's not the Spice Girls, is it?
Won't. No more. No more. Baby, I'ma do right. You can't. Okay. It's three of. It's okay. Say it again. It's three of them. They're not tall and they happen to be women.
Oh, I feel you've given me this one before, right? It's like because this was this the one when you were like your brother or whatever, like sisters.
Oh no, it's not. No,
that was a different group, but you gave it. Yes,
it's similar. They are. They do.
They're not tall.
They're not tall, and they are ladies.
The short girls.
You've never heard of 3LW, Jack?
No, 3OW. No, I don't know if I feel better or worse now because I've never heard 3OW.
3L. Little.
Have you?
Three Little Women? Is that?
Yes. Have you heard of the Cheetah? Have you heard of the Cheetah Girls?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, Adrian Bailon and the two of them.
I don't know the history of it. But...
Well, no, but the Cheetah Girls was Reva Simone, Adrian Bailon, and I forget the other girl name, Keely. They were part of, then have you seen the show Power?
No.
Okay.
Is Raven Simone the one from That's So Raven though?
So yes, but Raven Simone isn't in 3LW, but 2 members of the Cheetah Girls was in 3LW. It was Notori, Keely, and Adrian. But anyway, okay. Little history lesson for you.
I'll never forget that.
We'll see.
Wait. So where were we? So with the Reddit.
Yeah, they said no more production manipulation. Just let the players play. And I'm like,
I wouldn't say all that.
That's how I felt. But I mean, people in the comments were going off.
Bryce, are you in the comments on Reddit?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Bryce was going off. Let him play. Is this your post?
It wasn't my post.
They've been doing this since Kageyama episode 2.
Let the players play. I stand Kageyama.
Darnell got screwed in Quran.
Quran.
I'm dead.
No, it's like, is it the best twist of the season? No, but is it? I think that advantage was premeditated. They probably said, let's split them up. There's going to be an advantage at the reward, and it just so happened that Rachel ended up being in, like, I guess the worst situation, or you could say the perfect situation, where she's the recipient.
And I guess that's where people can look at it like, what are the odds that this is what the idol happens to say when Rachel is with everybody and she's by herself? I don't believe that, but I'm just saying, like, I can see.
Oh, is that what you wrote on the Reddit comment?
Someone said that verbatim. Bryce, now, how did they pick the groups? Was the intern lacking this episode?
Clearly, they fired the intern, and they're only digging in the bags now. They're not holding the tray out because that intern got fired. So no, but I'm not saying that was the manipulation, but because it was so random and Rachel did get screwed by being on a tribe with myself, Kyle, Caroline, and Tiana, like, it really puts her in a bad position. And someone else in the comments was saying, like, after an episode where Rome went home and editing, it was hard to hide the edit of Rome going home. Then with a Rachel, that's just, again, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just reporting what the fans were saying on Reddit.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say this was like blatant production interference. It just so happened to be a situation that kind of became pretty predictable. Like, it made sense for them to give Rachel this advantage. I also felt like, we see them at the reward. They're all taking naps. It's like, I'm guessing production kind of held them at that reward until someone found the advantage, which they wanted that advantage to be found. I doubt that they pointed anyone in that direction, but you lay around long enough.
Why would they want the advantage to be found so bad?
Well, it's like, that's kind of, I feel like, what they had intended for the structure of this split. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad, but it's sort of like, I'm sure they were like, okay, we're going to do this 2-tribe split, and then the twist is going to be that someone's going to get this advantage, and that's going to spice it up. I feel like they would have done that either way. However the breakdown had happened, that's what they would have wanted to do.
Yeah, I think when they wanted it to be found. When they make these advantages, they want them to be found. So, hey, all right, we're going to hide it right here.
How? My man is Andy. How do y'all think Andy did? Andy was on a roll, and I think that he was on a roll getting his alliance together. He was on a roll checking soul. But when it came to that reward and Andy was there, got no one to hold him and no one to fold him, Andy.
What did they say? Yeah. Hey, did you find anything? Who said this up?
I mean, yeah, it's always it's so stigmatized, but honestly, at that point, I'm like who really, like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, I don't know. It's not that big a deal. Like, just why not look around? I don't know.
Now, another question is, because he was seen I don't remember who found him looking, but now it's like, all right, who sent this over to Rachel? Maybe people be like, yo, it might have
For
been
sure.
Andy. And Andy will be like, no, I promise. Y'all saw me looking.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And Saul did a great job of, kind of the what?
What the hell?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't really know where to begin with this episode. I honestly thought this episode was probably the worst of the season. I didn't by any means think it was bad, but I thought it was probably the worst episode of the season. It just was a little. Now I'll take a 90-minute episode every day of the week, but there was times this one was moving a little. When they go back to the reward challenge for the 4th time to show them napping, it's like, all right, we're a little bit starved for content here. The thing is,
I thought quite the opposite though, Jack. Like, I thought this was a thrilling episode. And when I was sitting next to, there was someone that came to the Halloween party dressed as Bryce. Shout out to my girl Leah. When I was sitting next to Leah, I looked at the watch. I said, we've got 30 minutes left and we're going to tribal. I'm like, buckle up. We're in for a ride. I enjoyed it. I thought this episode was very interesting for a multitude of reasons, but pop off, Jack.
Well, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's the thing. You had texted me right when we were starting. You were like, it's a crazy episode, which in the future I generally prefer no comments on the episode.
Don't text me, Jack. Jack, don't text me when you know the episode is playing. And that's not a spoiler.
It's not. I'll say it's a big deal, but it's like a minor spoiler because you kind of expect something crazy to happen, which actually I didn't really think anything that crazy happened. So
it's a reverse spoiler.
It was kind of a reverse spoiler, but it's like sometimes you'll hear like, "Yo, this episode was nuts," and then you're watching the whole time, like seeing this crazy plan. And you're like, "Well, now I know it's probably gonna happen."
Yeah,
but
something crazy.
That's a separate
Jack,
thing.
I will never text you on a Wednesday again.
Well, keep it logistical. What time are we recording the podcast? But I knew you were NOLA too, and you were no. That was I'm not mad at it. It was totally fine. That's just a thing moving forward. But
he was really mad though. Wendell, did Jack just check me?
He just kind of like bossed up on you, Bryce.
No, it's not. It wasn't that. It's not that.
Don't do it again, Bryce. Okay.
It's Jack, Andy, and I'm Saul. What is happening?
Yeah. No, I'm teeny. I'm chill.
Nah, you got the wrong costume on.
No, that wasn't meant to be. It wasn't a big deal. Like,
but don't do it again.
That's right. But I don't know. Like, it just became. It's okay. Look, I think that the Blue Tribe, Tuku, which it ended up just being it basically was a Tuku pre-merge tribal council that everyone got to watch. I think Tuku is far and away the most boring tribe on this season, and I don't know if that's a hot take. I think some other people have shared that take and maybe been a little bit harsher about it. So the people that I'm rooting for,
my tribe, Tuku.
That's right. You're the best of them, Sue. You're the best of them.
So, all right. Well, okay. Well, listen, we gonna know, baby. No. So, who is the boringness on that tribe?
I think as nobody specifically, but there's nobody that's a standout.
You got to put a name on that bullet.
You got to stamp something.
In a way, I'll kind of say collectively.
Gabe is fun to watch.
Well,
but Gabe, Gabe is also sort of intentionally, in my own thoughts on Gabe's side, he's kind of playing up the villain thing. And yes, so to me, there's nobody on Tuku that I'm like really invested in rooting for. And that's not, I'm not saying anyone's playing like necessarily bad, but all the people I'm rooting for are on that other group, like Genevieve, Teeny, Saul, Sam. That's kind of like baby Andy. Like those are the people that are probably my top 5. I mean, I like Kyle, but Kyle's fun in like a kind of like a Southern charm, like some good one-liners, but he's not carrying like the narrative of the episode.
Can I tell you a player that got put on my radar from Tuku this episode? And I know we're all over the place. Caroline. I thought the way when Tiana came to her and that conversation that she had, I thought she handled that extremely well. Now, me as a viewer, knowing what I know from these previous episodes, Caroline is not breaking from me, her mother, Sue. However, the way that she was talking to Caroline, or when Caroline was talking to Tiana, and, you know, Tiana knew that Caroline wasn't really with her, but the way Caroline was like, no. Like, this isn't a democracy. I mean, this isn't no, this is a democracy. This is not a dictatorship. Like, I speak, you speak. Tell me what you thinking. The way that Caroline maneuvered that, I was like, wow.
She's good,
like,
yeah.
And we had, and mind you, it's almost like Jeff last week. Like, guess what, guys? One person's safe and everyone else isn't. It really was like, wow, you speak, I speak. We don't have to agree, but like we can still work together. That seems like such a nuance on Survivor, but it's like it was so refreshing to see. And I don't think we haven't seen that type of like communication in a long time.
I mean, I definitely think Caroline's the strongest player on that tribe. We haven't learned a ton about her yet, and she doesn't have enough airtime for me necessarily to be invested in her as like a rooting interest. But I definitely think she's a good player. I think she communicates very well. You know, when she realized that Sue found the idol, I thought she handled that very well, just giving her, she's a great ally and she's really smart. And I saw a comment, I think I was also looking at Reddit. It's like, you could tell Caroline's in corporate America because she's very direct, but she also has a really good way of like gearing her arguments to make sense to whoever she's talking to. And I think the interesting conversation to have here is this idea that if you're on Tuku, kind of the debate they had is like, is voting out Rachel ultimately a bad move? And I think generally, yes, that it is. But Caroline actually argued it's a bad move for Gabe and Kyle, but it's actually, you know, for her and Tiana, maybe not a bad move. And so I kind of want to throw that to you guys of like, for this Tuku group, who does it make sense for all of them to vote out Rachel? Does it make sense for like none of them to vote out? Like, if you're in that Tuku group, what are you thinking about what you should do?
I think that's really astute, Jack, because truth, like Kyle's winning these immunities. Next time he doesn't win, that man's going home. And there are these natural targets that can be placed before them. And then once Tuku is down to whatever, eyes are elsewhere. And that's when things start to happen. So I think she was right with that assessment.
Agreed.
And when we merge, if we're down in the numbers, why are they not going to pick us off right away? So I do understand that. However, I also feel like that's just status quo, right? Like, it's just like, it really is just that is the easy move. And I feel like in this new era, when we get these easy vote outs, it's never really an easy vote out. And I think that that's where Tiana was leaning towards. And I loved my girl Tiana, but it really just has me thinking, or maybe we're not giving, and mind you, I'm very sad and I love my girl Tiana, but I also feel like maybe we're not giving Caroline and Sue enough credit, because again, Tiana going to Caroline with that, we didn't see it in the edit, but I am 1,000% sure Caroline took that information back to me, and I am 1,000% sure I took it to Gabe, right? Like, I just know that was the line of events. And for me, it is surprising that, or what it appears is that, like, does Tiana not know the chain of command? Are they making her feel more comfortable in the alliance than she really is?
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. Caroline and Sue have done a pretty good job of keeping their options open, and Caroline positions herself really well as a swing vote. And unfortunately for Tiana, like, and I think I think Sue and Caroline have positioned themselves really well. So I wouldn't expect Tiana to know that they're not going to flip on Gabe, but that's like a great job by them, because Tiana can only go to them and they have all the control, and it's just not going to shake out for Tiana here.
Can I ask a question real quick? A little bit off topic, but you saying your comment that you wrote on Reddit about Caroline being in corporate America, it has me thinking, because I might be in the Big Easy, but I still had to work this morning. And you ever have passive aggressive coworkers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we just go around the circle? And what are how do you communicate F you, corporate America way? For me, one of my favorite tactics at work is when somebody sends me something that is like, you already know the answer. And why are you CCing my manager, my supervisor, and everybody else when you could have just emailed me, right? Sorry, because I'm dealing with this currently. My favorite for me is good afternoon, Jack. Per my last email. Ooh, the way I get off when I can start an email like that. Whew. Because really what I'm saying is read what I sent to you last before you ask me any questions.
And then they'll be like, I read it in full, and I'm asking you a new question, Bryce. Can you fully read my email?
Hey, Wendell. Thanks for your response. My supervisor and I met and realized this is not in my job description. Well, no, but what's the passive aggressive? What's the way you could say ugh in an email, Jack?
Usually I feel like it's like, hopefully we could figure this out promptly and I won't have to loop in your manager or your whatever. Or it could be like maybe you just throw in like hoping to hear your response in like a timely manner.
Or another one I do is, hey, Jack, thanks for your prompt response. Really, it's been 2 weeks and you ain't respond back to my email. That's another one. What's a smart email for you, Wendell?
I'm not in corporate America, Bryce.
What about when you're communicating for your home makeover and they're like, Wendell, we need you?
I'll be
Wendell,
like, on my way. For my last email, I will be right there.
OMW, thanks. Sorry, but that just reminded me of something. And I was dealing with some work stuff with somebody that just loves to CC everybody in the world. And it's like, well, first, okay, then we get back to survival.
Being lazy.
No, I'm not. But first of all, you CCing everyone in the world, I promise you, that is the fastest way for you to get a response from me in 3 days.
So if they CC everyone, so you're gonna show everyone how lazy you are.
No, oh no. I'm lazy. I'm not lazy because you can look at my calendar and you can see all of the things that I'm doing, and I don't have the time to take to respond to you. But I'm just telling you, that's a fast track way of you not getting a response until 48 hours. But anyway, just call me Carolyn. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jack. I want to hear.
Well, I was gonna say, as much as it didn't work for Tiana, I do think she had the right headspace here, because if they do vote out Rachel, we seal in this reward that the other 6 are like, these 2 who are tight, we got to group together. And now I don't know if Tiana would be target number 1, but maybe she'd be the one that Tuku would be willing to sacrifice. So I don't mind Tiana here being a little bit willing to play ball. Unfortunately, it's just like Gabe, Caroline, and Sue are too tight. You know, Gabe has this kind of the same idea, but he doesn't really mean it, and Rachel sees right through it. But I actually think it would have been beneficial for Gabe to go that route. I think it just came off really disingenuous to Rachel. But I'm worried that Gabe, is going to be in trouble here soon, because even with Rachel going home and them having to vote out one of their own, they still unanimously vote out Tiana. And I think Tuku's still, and they were really, heartbroken about it, kind of visibly. I still think the other group is going to be like, these Tuku 4 now are still really tight, so we still have to target them. And I think Gabe could be just kind of a premier target for that.
More than Kyle?
I think more than Kyle.
I think Kyle will flip. Like, I think, well, one, if Kyle doesn't win immunity, I definitely think the block is hot for Kyle. However, I feel like with Tiana gone, they've taken out TK. Kyle is a free agent. And I am hoping that my baby father, Andy, can scoop Kyle up, because I think that, and I think that Andy has a good enough eye on the game that I think something like that could be possible. But I think it is time for Kyle, if he does not win immunity, to jump ship.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Kyle seems to have some decent options so far, whereas I feel like with Sue and Gabe, we haven't really seen them connect with a ton of other people across tribal lines. So, I'm pretty worried for them.
Yeah, I agree.
It is funny that with this immunity challenge, Kyle sort of has another target on him because he won individual immunity, even though myself and Genevieve were up on the beam for way longer. And like, yeah, it was, I don't know what you guys thought, but after that Kyle drops, just like Kyle wins individual immunity, and then Genevieve and Tina are like, well, we actually were still up there. So now it's like Kyle gets credit for 2 straight individual immunities, even though he kind of got 3rd place, but I don't know.
That was weird with the challenge, where I had to listen back to it because I didn't understand what Jeff was saying when he was explaining it. Like, whoever stays up the longest will win immunity for their whole tribe, but whoever is up longer on the losing tribe wins immunity.
Yeah. Like individual.
Okay. Yeah. Individual. Hot take. I don't love that. Like, if you lost for your tribe, the reward is that tribe wins. Everybody is fair game.
Kind of agree. Also, you add in the safety without power that feels like it's inevitably going to be found. Now, all of a sudden, 4 out of 12 people are eligible to vote. And that's the complaint we've had in the new era, is all these little like split, little lose a vote, safety tribals. I mean, last week was really fun because everyone got a vote and it was a big tribal. And now we're just sort of back to our old ways, where it basically turns the early merge votes, which can be so interesting, into legitimate. It's like a pre-merge tribal again, which are not, the most exciting sometimes.
Do you think that if Kyle, say we didn't get immunity, right, and everyone was fair game, do you think Soul would have, you think he had a pulse enough on the game that it still would have been Rachel, or do you think maybe he would have even considered a Kyle?
It's a good question. It kind of brings me to a bigger.
If what, Bryce?
So if Kyle didn't win the immunity, right, and even though he was the longest up there and everyone was fair game, do you think Soul's game on giving the reward would have still been Rachel, or do you think he would have had a read on the game that, like, Kyle is, I'm Sue and he's enemy number 1 for me? Like, so Kyle would have really been a huge target.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a good question.
You have all of these minds, and you have all of these players, and everyone is fair game. So you wouldn't be thinking of, I don't know if you'd be thinking about, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Yeah. I still kind of think, so what I think would have happened, I still think he probably gives it to Rachel, and I still think Tiana probably goes home. I feel like Kyle's in an okay spot. But that brings me to a question that I kind of meant to ask, which I guess is sort of like a little reverse on yours, is like, that's probably what would have happened. And we obviously saw what did happen. But do you guys think there is a case, if you're in Soul's shoes, to give say Kyle does win immunity, like what happened? As played, do you think there's a case for Soul to give that advantage to someone other than Rachel?
Well, no. I think the best move is Rachel, right? Again, I understand what you're saying. Like, I can give it to someone and that builds our relationship. But I feel like giving it to Rachel, if you're not on the chopping block and somebody sends an olive branch, it's like, thank you. But if you're in the middle of the ocean drowning and someone sends you a life jacket, you're gonna be like, oh, I love you for life. That is a deeper bond. And so I definitely think giving it to Rachel was the right thing. And it's for sure going to cement to them something, some way, somehow.
So we hope, because also, like, you know, as if you make it through one day, now all of a sudden you're in, like, you can have a different interest or something like that. I don't know.
If I'm in the middle of the ocean and you are just on Instagram Live saying, pray for Bryce, and Jack is throwing me a life jacket and pulling me in, and the next day something happens where I got to pick between you or him, even if it benefits me to go with you, Jack just pulled my naked body out of
Oh, I might throw you back in.
First of all, second of all, that's disgusting. How did you get naked, Bryce? Where'd your clothes go?
I don't know. But
Get a little encounter with a shark.
Jack,
no.
when you were grabbing him, Jack, and you like pulled him out, did you then release? Like, no.
It was a catch and release.
No. I give my mind, my body, and my soul to Jackery. So
that might be in real life or death situations, Bryce. But in Survivor, when there's $1 million on the line, and if someone saves you one night, yeah, you could be excited that night. But if interests change tomorrow, you could be voting that person out.
There might be people like Wu from my season that honored
Get it out.
And integrity means something. So I definitely think that he made the right decision. Let me flip the question on you and put my clothes back on, Jack, and ask you this. What do you think the right move for Saul is to do? To immediately go back and tell Rachel and be like, hey, saved you? Or does he wait a little bit and then say something to Rachel? Or is this something that you immediately need to go tell Rachel, like, I threw that life jacket when you was naked in the ocean, I saved you?
I would say it doesn't have to be immediate, but maybe, you know, the next morning you go sit on the beach and you say, I got you. Because I think why wait? You know, like you said, and I kind of want to speak on the question I gave to you, because I had some thoughts on that too, where you made a good point of, I think the personal favor Saul is going to create with Rachel is going to be stronger than if he gave it to someone else. And that's a good point that you made, because to me, I was thinking, okay, the biggest reason Saul would give this to Rachel is just to create fractures in Tuku, hopefully. And if I'm Rachel, who's also, you know, really sharp, am I going to be really happy towards Saul? For sure. But at the same time, I'm also going to be like, I think like it made sense for him to do that to create some fractures. So it doesn't necessarily mean he like wants to go to the end with me. But I think those are the two benefits for Saul doing this is, okay, like you can hopefully create some fractures in Tuku, and you also maybe get a little bit more favor out of Rachel. The flip side of this that we didn't touch on, and Zach Wurtenberger kind of threw this idea out a little bit, and we kind of worked through it. I think there's a very strong case for Saul to just give this to like Kyle or a Tuku and let Rachel go home. Reason being, if the Tuku 5 votes out Rachel and they prove to be as solid as everyone else, believes, and on this reward, there's 6 non-Tukus that have now said, if these 5 Tukus come back strong, we need to vote one of them out. And it seems like everyone's on the same page. So if you're Saul and you actually allow that to happen, then I think your next 1 or 2 votes could actually be pretty straightforward, getting out like Gabe and Kyle. And I think at this point in the game, that's not a bad idea to have. Of course, things can always shift and always change, but this feels like a pretty obvious spot to put a target on the Tukus. But now that Tiana's gone home, now I still think the Tuku look pretty tight. So we might still see a Tuku being targeted next. But now you actually have Rachel as sort of an extra, and now there's 7 non-Tukus and only 4 Tukus, as opposed to 6 and 5. When it's 6 and 5, it's like, okay, we need to get a Tuku or else they're going to take over the game. When it's 7 and 4, now the game sort of breaks back open, and Saul might not have those couple guaranteed votes that could have happened had they kept Tuku together. So, if I'm in Saul's shoes, do I give the thing to Rachel? Most likely, because it just also feels like a little bit more of a splashy move that is just like an exciting thing to do when you're out there. But I think there's a very real case to just like let Rachel go home, who Saul is obviously not even that close with yet, it seems like, and then put this huge target on Tuku. And maybe in doing that, you also go to, maybe you give it to Gabe, and then you go to Gabe and you're like, hey, I gave that to you because I want to work with you. Now you might have an option with Tuku too. So you might have a lot of options, but I don't know. I don't think it was necessarily a bad move by any means to just give it to Rachel, because you kind of have a very obvious win that can happen. But I think there is a case to almost like allow this big, strong group to be strong as long as you can have the numbers to get rid of them.
Basically,
Go ahead.
now basically you're saying, all right, let's go down and let's get one person out of here and enact this plan to get some more Tukus out. So it's like you get one step closer, and then you effectuate this plan that's going to break up this bonded, large tribe, which sounds just like it does sound like a good move.
But
you
I
never
think
know.
I think of season 45. I think of Reba, right? Like that still is a risky move to make, allowing this tribe to look strong. And sometimes when the train gets going,
Reba did a really good job of hiding how tight they were.
I mean,
it was obvious. I remember during the season, all the talk was about nobody realized that they were such a tight 4. Whereas Tuku, it's like literally all the other people were just on reward together and all agreed we got to go for these guys. I don't know. I don't think that it's necessarily a right or wrong answer, but it's sort of like, to me, especially in the new era, I think to have a group that is so obviously tight, as long as you have more numbers than them, it's actually the tighter they are, the better, because then it's just...
Here's another thing. If the roles were reversed, and we saw the yellow tribe with one blue person on it, and everyone at the reward would be like, oh, that yellow tribe is just so strong. Like, they're fractured. We know that. I don't think that they appear so strong. It's just that due to the intern from last season messing up, and now we actually have to take the chances, and we see what happened. It's just the optics, and just how y'all saying something can happen next week. I don't think that that's really the way people are thinking, in my opinion. Can I ask the question?
I mean, obviously not how they're really thinking, because it's not what happened. But I just wanted to throw that out. I was like, it could, I think Rachel was for sure the obvious move, but I think it's possible that something else could have been better. We'll never really know, of course. Who knows exactly what would have happened, but I don't mind. Like, that's sort of like why this is completely tangent. Like, early in the game, if I have a chance to like be in a 3-person alliance, kind of like Andy, 3-person alliance with what's perceived as like a power duo, and I'm number 3, but I'm in the majority, I think that's great, because it's like, okay, well, they're the ones who are obviously a duo, and people are going to want to break them up first. So I don't mind being the 3rd wheel or the 5th wheel in a really strong alliance, because you're not really seen as the issue. But that's a separate point.
Well, sometimes when you're wheeling, and if those wheels have, if you might not know that those wheels might have something, maybe they aim for the peripheral wheel or whatever.
True.
Sorry, Bryce.
But I think if you are a wheel, you have to make sure that you are creating good relationships with a different car.
How do wheels create relationships?
By talking to other wheels.
Hitching a different wagon.
Row your boat. Or yeah, y'all lost me a little bit. Quick question to both of you. I feel like from me watching last night, I feel like it was Soul. I've heard these rumblings of Kyle. I've heard these rumblings of Gabe. What do you think? I haven't really heard anyone talk about Rachel outside of like her being saved. I want to know your thoughts on what does this do for Rachel's game? Does this just put a bigger target on Rachel, or does this put her in a position of like, she's connected? Like, what does this do for Rachel's game is my question.
I don't think she's one of these all eyes on me type players. And so I think it's like, all right, you got your lifeline now, and eyes can be elsewhere. So you do have a second shot at life.
But does this boost your, I guess, does this help your Survivor currency, or does it like, that's what I'm saying? Because like,
like, does it mean like, yo, you just got saved, so someone else, this is not a tick on someone else's resume, or is that what you mean?
Kind of, sort of. Like, I'm just curious, like, what does this like? Clearly,
I think it just helps her status as a free agent, which I think for Rachel is not a bad thing, because she still has a couple connections with the Yellow, her original Gata tribe. She seems to be making some inroads with, Lavo. And now it's sort of like for kind of through no fault of her own, she was Tuku's target, but it's not that they necessarily wanted her out in general. So it sort of seems like she's separated from every group. And I think Rachel's a really smart player. I think she can, make something happen with that, because now it's starting to look like there might be some tribal lines developing. People are kind of cross-targeting, looking at some bigger threats. I think Rachel can slip through, which is actually partly why I think, to my point about Saul kind of being willing to let Rachel go, is it seems like they're not super connected yet. And I think Rachel's a threat to win. And I think she's more of a threat as a floater free agent, if she's not directly with you, than I think that collective Tuku group is. So it's possible it's like Saul might have just let, the eventual winner slide through just to kind of try to fracture.
Did you just lose power?
Lost power.
what?
You look like you're a silhouette now. That's kind of dope, actually. At least you still got Wi-Fi.
Yeah, good thing I'm on my phone.
Jack, you look like a witness right now.
Oh my God, yeah, Jack, talking a really
They like that.
Jack, talking a
Only the
really
voice.
deep voice. So tell us what happened, sir, the night Rachel got saved from tribal council.
So, so I don't think, and kind of what you asked too, Bryce, I don't think this is really a resume move for anybody. Like Soul saving her, to me, if I'm on a jury, I'm like, okay, that was sort of like you had to do something for someone. And Rachel, it's like, okay, you played this, like, what else were you gonna do? Like, obviously you were gonna do that.
What about threat level? What does this do to Rachel's threat level? Anything?
In a way, it maybe lowers it, because it's like, oh, well, she was about to walk out the door, and then she got saved kind of like through sheer, I don't want to say luck, but just, she just got blessed by Saul. So to me, I think it's gonna help Rachel. I think it's gonna put Rachel in a good position. She's gonna be seen as a free agent. She's gonna be seen as, I think it's almost that idea that's like, oh, well, Rachel almost walked out the door. We can get her out whenever, and now people might not be thinking about actually getting her out, and then she can move through. So I don't know. I'm high on Rachel.
Can we talk Andy? I don't think we really talked enough about Andy and him putting everything together. Andy talking with Genevieve and realizing that Sam might have been lying to him this whole time. I love to just, since I texted you and said it was a great episode and you're saying it wasn't a great episode, we haven't really communicated. So I love to know your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I love the turnaround Andy's having. He's kind of kicked into a different gear. It's actually, I think, kind of a testament of, like, we've seen a couple times now, especially in the new era, these people start off really messy. Andy, Emily Flippin, and ultimately they're very astute, clever players, and I think they show that early on. It's like, okay, well, you save this person, but you're also kind of creating a monster in a way of someone who goes from, maybe being an easy first out who's probably not going to win the game, and then they become someone who has some real equity to win. I like what Andy's so kind of, I feel like he's perceived as being so on the bottom just from early on that no one's really worried, and now he's actually making some really strong moves, making some really good bonds. My only thing is, it felt like he kind of took what Saul said a little bit too easily. Like, it's, he and Sam had a really good relationship in the pre-merge. I feel like it was really strong. They weren't always working 100%.
But was it though?
together.
But I mean, was it? And sorry, I don't mean to just cut you off. However, because I'm gonna defend my man. We see time after time where Sam is not being truthful to Andy, like literally lying to Andy's face. And so when he gets the idol, pulls it back and like doesn't tell Andy about the idol. No, that's a big deal. That
I don't think it's that big a deal.
No, I think it is.
I mean, look,
I think that there's a world where Andy might be Andy, but Andy is perceptive. And I think that Andy knows that, yeah, he's made himself a part of this Sam and Sierra trouble, but I think that Andy knows that he's on the bottom. And I think that Andy knows there's a world where like they could just be using him and we don't see that. So I think hearing something from Saul could be like the icing on the cake that Andy just needed. So I don't think that like he just taking it too easy. I
don't think Sam and Sierra are like the greatest allies he could ask for, but I also think they are right now is up until he's made these.
Let me ask you this:
some of the better. But what I will say, I just mean like, to me, if I'm Andy, the relationship I had with Sam, even though we weren't necessarily in lockstep the whole pre-merge, but he was my closest ally. If I'm Andy, why would he be the one to actually throw me? I would imagine.
But we've seen him throw Andy under the bus.
Not like
Wendell weigh in.
I feel like last episode, I feel like people threw Andy out, and Sam was like, "Yeah, we could do Andy." But Sam's not intending to vote Andy out anytime soon.
Sam is not threatened by Andy.
But that doesn't mean that he's not like, okay, you don't have to be threatened by me. You don't have to be threatened by me for you to treat me like a pawn, and that's still not okay.
True. I'm not saying Sam's the best ally. I just think I worry, and we don't know what's going to happen yet. I worry that Andy's going to try to flip everything on Sam when I actually think, okay, have your little thing with Sam and Sierra, go make some new connections, and then play that middle and let things happen around you for a little bit. Because I think if he takes out Sam, then he loses a lot of options. Then he's sort of at the bottom of Kennedy's whole sort of situation.
Let's talk some numbers here.
Where he's at. All I mean to say is I felt like he accepted that Sam was the one to throw him under the bus way too quick. When I feel like the relationship they had, I wouldn't really. Right. If Saul's the one who voted for me,
benefits more from this relationship, Jack, Sam or Andy?
It doesn't matter who benefits more. I think they
I'm asking the question. Who benefits more, Sam or Andy?
I mean, up to this point, Andy. So I'm not saying he's the best ally, but having the connection he has with Sam, you cannot tell me that's a worse connection for his game than his non-existent connections with like half the merge tribe. So he should not be targeting the person. It's all about capitalizing your social currency. And I don't think we saw this a lot, like last season, people being like, oh, my ally is playing harder than I am. Now I need to turn on my ally. It's like you could have,
but that's how they do in the new era. I'm just saying,
and they send themselves home eventually.
The person who won last season was actually the one who failed to do that, even when she wanted to.
Who told Sam about the Women's Alliance?
Andy.
Okay. Who?
It's mutually beneficial. That's why neither.
I mean, but is it no? Because I also feel like it is mutually beneficial. But I also feel like when you're saying that, it discredits Andy from making his own arguments. And I feel like, yeah, Sam might not have wanted Andy to go home, but like in that Annika vote, Andy didn't just sit around and twiddle his thumbs. Andy was talking to people and moving things around. So I just feel like in this relationship, how the edit paints Andy is just someone
Sam
that's
made
like,
a very
oh,
active effort to keep Andy in, and Andy
And-
knows that.
and so Andy was moving and shaking.
All I'm saying is, if I'm Andy, whether you think it's right or wrong to get them out or not, I think that Andy should have taken what and we didn't see everything, but maybe take what people say. To me, if I'm Andy and someone told me, "Oh, Sam made you the plan," I'd be like, "Well, there's no way. That doesn't even make any sense." It would probably happen was someone threw my name out, and Sam didn't want us to look too close, and was like, "Sure, we can make Andy the backup," and that's not the end of the world to me.
But shouldn't you know that?
Know what?
But you can also be upset that they allowed you to be the backup.
I guess,
Without
but
you
it's like
knowing.
Sam was also in a group of like multiple people. I'm not saying Sam's the best ally. I think Andy's doing a great job right now. Don't get me wrong. Like him making these new inroads with people, utilizing this thing that he's on the bottom and being like, maybe I can make some new bonds with Saul, with Genevieve. I think it's great. I just hope that he doesn't take those to then try to flip everything on Sam and make this big move. Because if he does that too early, I think he's going to then emerge as a threat and not have the connections to go far. What he should do is still kind of keep the Sam and Sierra thing, still keep a little Rachel thing, keep a little, Genevieve and Saul thing, let everyone target Tuku, and then he gets to like final 7 or 8, and then he's the swing vote. And I think he has a really good path to win. So I'm not saying he's not going to do that. I'm a little nervous that he is just too quick to jump on new opportunities. And there's such a balance because I love the initiative that he is taking in this past episode. But if every episode he's like, "Oh, someone said my name," new ally. Like, I'm not friends with them anymore. New ally.
What if it works and gets them to the end?
Then I think, look, I think given his kind of unique circumstances with the meltdown he had episode 1, he has like that such a low perception of his gameplay right now that he can get away with going a little too hard and maybe it'll work. But I do think that if he continues now, what we saw yesterday, I think can really end up going two ways. It could end up being very successful, or it could lead to a pattern of him just like playing the bottom too hard and making these inroads. And I think we've seen a lot in the past is that people will have this perception of them of being on the bottom, do a really good job of using it to get far, but then the jury still sort of sees them as that lower player, and there'll be a losing finals. So I think there's a very high likelihood that Andy plays a really smooth game the rest of the way, but because everyone always thought, "Oh, well, I was working with Andy because he didn't have anybody else. Like, he wasn't that good of a player," which isn't even necessarily true. But if that's the perception, then I could see him getting to the end and being a losing finalist.
For sure.
But there's a world where he could win, I think, for sure.
Okay, another hypothetical question because I know we're a little short on time because Jack has his.
I got a couple more minutes.
Okay. I'm just reading the Reddits, so don't come after the messenger. But I was reading the Reddits, and I was reading something that said one of the threads was like Gabe for president of season 47. Is there a world? Walk me through either of you. Is there a world that Gabe could win this?
Yeah.
Wait. What did you say, Jack?
That unlikely.
And
I like watching Gabe, and like I liked watching a lot of.
My question wasn't, do you like
It
watching?
also wasn't your question can also warrant a response that's longer than a yes or no answer.
Well, that was intended.
What, a yes or no?
No, longer than a yes or no.
Yeah, so that's what I was doing until you interrupted me.
Pop off.
I think there's a world where Gabe can win.
You little sassy today.
You see me in my Rome position?
I
Me?
I think that Gabe is a good player, and I've given him some flack.
Look at Jack right now. Look how he froze.
It has Y'all know Gabe is at home like, I'm gonna make sure whatever Jack says. Gabe, what are you doing up there, Gabe? Nothing.
Gabe just hacked Jack's computer from
Gabe,
his mom's basement.
Sorry. Teeny lost connection a little bit.
Wow, as soon as
Gabe
we
hacked
talk
our
about
computer
Gabe.
from his basement.
Yeah. So I was like, Gabe is, I don't know, just even whether it's him or not, the way that they're showing him, I think, is a way that's very hard to root for. And that's not whether that's what I think or not. I mean, I've seen a lot of sentiment online about like the way that he talks about, especially other people, women in the game, kind of rubs people the wrong way. And maybe they're just showing kind of the worst of that. Like, I don't think Gabe's a bad dude by any means. But if that's kind of how they're showing him too, then is that the person that I think has a chance to win from a viewing perspective? Not really. And I also, within the game, not even, talking about edit or whatever, I'm sure there's some things we haven't seen, but I kind of worry in these last 2 episodes, I haven't really seen Gabe make a lot of connections with Lavo. I haven't seen Gabe make a lot of connections with Gata. And he's had Tiana speaking kind of bad about him to these other 2 groups. I think he could be a really prime target to go home in the next couple episodes.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things about Gabe when I was watching was during the tribal when they all were scrambling and him and Kyle were talking, but it wasn't really a conversation. It really was like, this is what we doing, do it. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, I'm like, maybe you should have sent Genevieve, or no, maybe you should have sent Caroline to talk to him, because like, yeah, I just think Gabe has some loyal people around him, and I think that might cloud his judgment, although I'm very intrigued to see how it plays out for him.
It's the same way with how he kind of spoke to Rachel of like, okay, for all intents and purposes, Gabe thought that Rachel was going to go home unanimously. And in order to get her to not play her shot in the dark, he kind of comes up with this thing like, I'll go to rocks for you. And now if I'm Rachel and I go back, I'd be like, and Rachel doesn't buy it for a second. Now Rachel's going to go tell people, maybe even Tuku people, Gabe was saying he'd go to rocks to keep me safe. Like, that's just so ridiculous. I just think he's kind of overplaying his hand a little bit. And he just comes off as really like shisty. So, I think Gabe has a lot of the strategic skills and clearly some of the social skills with his crew of a good Survivor player, but I just think there's an element to him that is just going a little too hard. Maybe his head is not fully in the gameplay part of the game. So I think part of his head is like, how do I make good TV, which I can respect, but it also is going to hamper your game. I don't know. Bryce, the last thing I wanted to ask before I hop off, you gave the merge appetizer a lot of flack. This reward, they had ribs, corn on the cob, beer, I think they had. Was this a better reward for you?
A lot better. It wasn't just a charcuterie board. It wasn't appetizers. The ribs looked good. The corn looked good. This was a feast that I enjoyed watching. Although it was just kind of annoying because, like, it's not even the merge feast, because, like, you're not even really merged, because, unfortunately, with Tiana going home, doesn't even make the jury. So it's like,
that was tough.
Especially, thinking in her mind, Rachel's going home like almost for sure. And then all of a sudden that's pulled away. And half an hour later, you're not even on the jury. Like, that's definitely brutal.
What has to be even harder is if when Jeff is talking to you and during multiple times throughout tribal council, you're crying, saying how much you want to be here and how much at this point the merge means to you. And in the background of you crying, you see people leaning in, talking, and more than likely, they essentially are saying that was hard to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Next episode, so now we've got the jury, and we also have the Survivor auction coming up. I'm excited for that. Feels a little bit earlier than they usually do it, but never complain about an auction.
Yeah.
Justice for Tiana.
For sure, justice for our girl Tiana.
She was my winner pick.
She had some juice and gone too soon.
Despite what Jack says, I still think this episode was a crazy episode. And if someone in the comments can send me their number that I can text them on Wednesdays, because I will no longer be texting Jack what I think about the episode when he texts me first.
Not while I'm watching it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was excited to say that it was a good episode, but needless to say, this was a great episode. We'll be back next week covering episode 8. Make sure you go out and vote. It is important. So make sure you go out and vote and rock the vote. We'll be back next week. Thank you so much. It's been your Survivor News, season 47, episode 7.
Peace.
It's the Purple Pants Podcast. You better listen in public, might make your stomach hurt. Ooh. It's the Purple Pants Podcast. You're trying to unwind, you better get that box wine. It's the Purple Pants Podcast. You're trying to get your snack, you better hurry right back though. It's the Purple Pants. It's the Purple Pants.